This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Kerry Bubien.
And I am Stefan Roth.
Today we'll be talking with Southern Arkansas University's Police Chief, Gary Odell. Thank you, Gary, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
How did you start your career in the police force?
Well, I had advanced about as far as I could with the company that I was working for in retail sales. Wasn't really actively looking for another job, but I noticed an ad in the paper for public safety officer out here. I knew that Larry Lundeen was the director of the department at that time. He was a friend of mine. We played softball together. So I called him up and said, you think I'd have a chance to get this job? He said, yeah, you need to apply. So I did, and eventually ended up getting the job as a public safety officer.
What do you think is the biggest difference between being a police officer and working a sales position?
Well, really, there's a lot of comparisons. I mean, a lot of similarities. You still have to deal with the public. You still have to. A lot of times, the customer's always right. Although we have a lot more leeway in that area than you would in retail sales. But we still, the students out here are still our customers. We work for them. Unless they're actually breaking the law, we try to use as much lenience as we possibly can. If we start arresting everybody out here, then we won't have a job anymore.
When an incident happens on our campus, does the Magnolia Police Department get involved and help you?
If requested. We have an agreement with them, a mutual aid agreement.
Like it's separate, you're with...
Right. Separate departments, but we work together quite often. They don't get involved unless we ask, and we don't get involved in their business unless they ask us. But like I said, we have a mutual aid agreement. Anytime they call us for help, we go. Anytime we call them for help, they come. They're glad to come. There are times, especially when we're shorthanded, that we look to them to help us out. Because of lack of numbers, we can't always cover 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they pick up the slack, so to speak, in the times that we're not able to cover.
So you think SAU police needs more officers or more police vehicles to make the campus safer, especially on the weekends?
In an ideal situation, we would like to have more officers. Unfortunately, due to budgetary constraints, with enrollment the way it is at this point, which it's, I guess it's more or less leveled out, but it has been declining. And when the enrollment declines and your budget declines, we can cover 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, most of the time when we're fully staffed. The only times that we can't are when people are sick or they have to be off. You can't plan for people being sick. It's just a fact of life. We try to plan vacations during times when school is out, that sort of thing.
So currently, right now, how many officers are working for you?
I have 3 officers right now.
Including you's 4?
Right. We normally have a staff of 5 people. We had an officer quit just recently to go to work in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Kenny Homer.
Right.
The student newspaper, The Brave, reported this week that 10 cars got broken in last week.
Well, that was a 2-week period.
2-week period?
Right.
And can you give any advice to car owners how to make their cars safer?
Well, basically, they need to try to park in a well-lit area. If they have valuables that they can take out of the vehicle, they need to take them out, take them in their room. If they're not able to do that, they can lock them up in the trunk. Basically, the people that break into vehicles are opportunistic. They look for something that's easy. If you park in a well-lit, well-traveled, where there's going to be people around most of the time, that makes it a harder target for them. You can also engrave any items that you can't take out, such as stereos, speakers, that sort of thing, with some type of identification number. It makes it easier to trace if it is stolen. We make that service available. We have engravers. We will come out. Periodically, we make presentations in the dorms, in the residence halls, where we make that service available. Anything they want to bring, we'll engrave it for them.
That goes for the on-campus students, because I know as an off-campus student, I don't think they're aware of. When I come to the computer lab, I'm going to park, pretty much anywhere, because I really don't know what's going on as far as crimes and things like that.
We try to make those things available through the BRAE, to put out the tips.
So they are aware.
Occasionally in the BRAE and through the email, the all students emails, periodically.
Right.
Especially during periods where we have a large number, as in this case. Unfortunately, anytime you have a large number of vehicles concentrated in one area, you're going to have vehicles get broken into. It's very rarely to this much extent. We've already started a student patrol during the late evening, early morning hours. They're going to be out walking around, basically giving us extra eyes to watch. And hopefully, they're not out there to catch anyone, but basically it's prevention, to try to keep this from happening again. And plus, we're going to do some extra surveillance with officers on their off times and that sort of thing, to try to cut down on the vehicle break-ins.
I know SAU has rented the skating rink parking lot. Don't you think that in this kind of situation, the university police and ticket writers should be a little bit more lenient on the parking availability?
Well, basically, we counted parking spaces, the ones that we lost at the gym because of the construction, and the ones that we gained due to the new parking lot across the street from the student activities building, and the renting of the skating rink, where it basically evens out. I know it's not as close as maybe people would like for it to be, but it's definitely as close to the buildings where most of the classes are held as the gym area would be. Basically, we haven't lost any parking. Maybe 5 to 10 spaces.
To me, it just seems more crowded than last year.
Well, I think
here 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think what something that's contributed to that is the fact that we're up about 100 students on campus living in the residence halls, and there seem to be more vehicles in that area.
And most people, they don't know how to appeal traffic violation tickets. Can you explain the proper?
Sure.
Appeal
They can either
process?
come to my office in the student activities building or to the student life office in the Bruce Center, room 212, I believe it is, and request to appeal a ticket. They'll be given a form to fill out, and they'll be given a court date. They usually, I think it meets on Monday afternoons, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And is that common that the persons who appeals, do they have their charges dropped? And what is the percentage of that?
I really don't know. We don't get involved in that side of it. At one point in time, we had the person that was the Chief Justice, more or less, of the
Student government.
Right. Was a friend of mine, and he supplied me with a printout every week of what was overturned and what was upheld. But the present traffic appeals court doesn't supply me with that, so I really don't know what percentage of it are overturned. We have students writing tickets. They tend to be less lenient than an officer would be. They're looking at they want to please me by writing as many tickets as they can, and so sometimes they make a mistake, and we're glad to. A lot of times I don't even make them go through the appeal process if it's something that I feel like was could have been overlooked, or if it's
Over the line. I have a lot of friends that have gotten tickets over that, parking over the lines, or not, you're taking up another person's space.
basically it depends on what kind of attitude that someone approaches me about it. If they come to me wanting to rant and rave and stomp their feet, and I'm not going to pay this ticket, well then I'm going to tell them, well, you'll just have to go appeal it or whatever. If they come to me in a polite attitude and can we talk about this, I'm much more likely to.
Well, good. I'll come talk to you tomorrow because I have a ticket that I need appealed to, so maybe you can help me out. Since your career began here at SAU, well, how long ago did you join us here?
7 years as of the 11th of July this year.
Okay. Could you tell us where the most accidents or crimes occur? Is there a particular spot that you just seem to have more trouble with?
Well, as far as accidents, probably I would say the area in front of Overstreet Hall. And I feel like that we're very lucky that we don't have more accidents than we do in that area. Simply because there's vehicles coming from about 5 or 6 different directions at one time, at any given time. But I think we've been lucky. We haven't had any serious accidents there at all. No one injured worse than maybe a bruise or something like that. As far as crime, I guess you could say the Green Hall parking lot. That's where most of the vehicles get broken into.
That is slightly, I would think it would be, or just driving by, it is a tad bit darker than other areas.
Well, that's something that has been addressed. Just last night, some of the administration met with some student organization, I'm not sure which, maybe Residence Hall Association. They took a tour of the campus and looked at some of the areas, and I think that there will be some lighting added too. I don't know this for sure, but I think that some lighting will be added to the Green Hall parking lot area.
And the SAU started a new student patrol system.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain what it is?
Well, that's basically what we talked about before. We've hired some students to just walk through the parking lot area during the late evening and early morning hours, just to watch for suspicious activity.
Will we be able to identify them? Will they have a special uniform?
They'll be wearing an orange vest. It has student patrol on it, and it has some reflective tape where they can be seen. They will have a flashlight.
Is this a volunteer?
No, this is student work.
Okay.
Work study. We are providing them with a portable radio to radio the officer on duty if they see suspicious activity taking place. hopefully this will cut down on the number of break-ins that we have.
Are they happening during the day, or are you finding it more so at night, or
Well,
both?
I've never known it to happen during the day. Now, there's some areas in town where it does happen during the day, specifically the high school. But their situation's a little bit different. Their parking lot areas are pretty, are not well. There's not much foot traffic during the day while classes are going on, so it's easy for someone to
Get in there and
do that sort of thing. Here, there's people moving about everywhere, you know, most of the day. So they don't, we have never, that I know of, had any happen during the daytime. It's mostly during the early morning hours.
being that this campus is fairly small and the crimes can vary from date rape to car theft, what do you consider the most violent crime here on SAU's campus?
Well, we've had a little bit of every crime that any small city would have. We've had people get shot at.
Here on campus?
Mm-hmm. And this has been years ago. We haven't had an incident like that in several years. We've had people get stabbed. As you say, we've had rapes reported. But I would like to say that has declined tremendously since in the last probably 5 or 6 years. We don't have much violent crime at all.
Chief Odell, the Arkansas police had some drug busts last week here in Columbia County. Are there any relationships to drug crimes on our campus?
You know, I won't pretend to say that it doesn't happen on campus. Some of the people that were arrested last night have been seen on campus, have been arrested on campus. They do come out here and try to sell their drugs. We do what we can to keep them under control. Unfortunately, the Drug Task Force does not have any of their undercover agents that are young enough to come work on a college campus. You know, I've discussed this with the prosecutor, the director of the Drug Task Force, and requested that they help us. And to some point in the future that they have an agent that's young enough, we're pretty much on our own.
Do you think that the drug problem on campus has gotten worse since you started here?
I wouldn't say it's gotten any worse. It's always been there. I mean, we do what we can to
Crack down on it.
We take a zero tolerance as far as any drug activity that we're able to come across. But
Is it the marijuana, or do you feel it's the hardcore drugs such as crystal meth, cocaine,
basically,
or a combination?
the majority of what we deal with is marijuana. You know, I can't say that the other drugs are not present, but they're not as widespread.
Do you have any leads on the 2 drug incidents that happened last spring semester, which involved 2 SAU-owned cars?
No, we really don't. We really didn't have a way to pinpoint who may have left so we don't know yet that I haven't received any results from the crime lab yet as to whether or not it was actually drugs. In the one case, in order to prosecute or to make an arrest in that type of situation, you would have to have a much more controlled system of cleaning out the vehicles, have some sort of a log where someone signed that they cleaned this vehicle at this time and it was empty, there was nothing in there, and then when it was brought back, someone else cleaned it, signed the log, such and such a time it's been checked, there's nothing, no contraband or anything else in here. Unfortunately, we didn't have any kind of system like that in place, so you can't pinpoint to one person. And those vehicles go, I mean, there's so many people that
Get in and out of them every day.
Right.
So say that a student worker was found out and they were found guilty of driving that car. What would you do to them?
Well, they would be arrested and charged.
Right on the spot?
Right.
Okay. Do you find, well, when a drug bust takes place on campus, I know in the past, in the Bray, they've stated, marijuana's been found here or there. When the bust takes place, are you assisted by the Magnolia Police? Do you automatically call them when drugs are involved? Because you are just a university,
Right.
and that goes into the hands of the Magnolia Police?
We normally immediately involve the drug task force. They have an investigator who is a member of the Magnolia Police Department that works with the drug task force, and we normally contact him and basically turn that over
To him?
to him.
And then y'all are, like, more or less out of the picture in a way?
Well, no, we assist him in any way
Right.
we can, but as far as they're more well equipped than we are to
Right.
deal with any kind of drug related crime. They know exactly what needs to be done. We're not, and that's what they're there for.
Right.
So we take advantage of the opportunity to let them take care of any kind of drug related arrest that we make.
I just want to back up for a few minutes and talk about the enrollment on campus and how many students are here, which does affect the crime and violence and all the above. There's almost 2,700 students here, and the public receives only less than a dozen incident reports weekly. This makes SAU look like a damn safe campus. Would you please comment on this, and why is that? Because if 10 incident reports get turned in, that makes it look like, wow, SAU only has 10 criminals on campus, but out of 2,700 students, that isn't a whole lot.
Well, I think that we do have basically a safe campus. We try to do what we can to contribute to that. I think the raising of the admission standards has helped a lot. Basically, 5 or 6 years ago, we had we charted at one time. We had just as many incidents or more during a period of time. I think we checked a 2-month period as Magnolia did. At that time, there was not much emphasis on our department. We were kind of low on the priority list. Some changes were made, and more people were hired. And I think it's made a big difference. That, along with the fact that they've continued to raise the admission standards. I would never begrudge anyone in education, but basically we had quite a few people out here that weren't here to get an education. They were here to party and
Goof around and make your job harder.
Right. They were here to party and to steal and whatever they could get away with, for however long they could stay here without getting kicked out.
How soon before we get to see a new smiley officer on campus?
Well, we're in the hiring process right now. Unfortunately, it takes a little time. We try to hire someone that's already certified police officer if we can. We've gotten several applications in. I'm in the process of reviewing those applications right now.
Is that required?
It's not an absolute requirement. It's a preference. You know, if we didn't get anyone that was certified, or if the people that we had apply that were certified were not suitable after a background check was done, then we would consider hiring someone that was not. Basically, the reason for it, with us being a small department, the training at the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy has increased from 8 weeks to 12 weeks. And I understand that it's at some point in the near future is going to be 14 weeks. When we hire someone that's not certified, they have to go to the academy within a year. That's according to the standards set up by the state. And that means we've got to be without that officer after we've hired them for another 12 or 14 weeks. Being a small department, it
Puts the pressure on.
Yeah, it kind of puts us in a bind. That's why we would prefer hiring someone that is already certified. We can't always do that, but we try to hire the person that's the best suited to the job. Someone that's passed a rigorous background check. Someone that we feel would fit in well with a college campus, because it's a little harder to law enforcement on campus is a little bit different than
Out there
for a city or for a county.
Right.
They're allowed a lot more to be less lenient than we have to be. And when I say lenient, I don't mean looking the other way when crime takes place. I mean in areas that can be handled by the school disciplinary.
We have one
procedures.
more problem on your hand, and that's alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm not used to a dry county myself. This was when I moved here and came to school. I'd never even heard of a dry county.
Mm-hmm.
So not only, you have to look out for that also. Plus that being a school rule.
It's tough when you're not even supposed to have it on campus according to school policy. A lot of these people are under 21. They're not supposed to have it, period. But we try to let the situation dictate what action we take. If a person's willing to cooperate with us, then we're more willing to cooperate with them and not be as tough on them as we normally would. Unfortunately, college campus and alcohol have gone hand in hand for years and years, and I don't know if that'll ever change. We try to make it where they don't do it in public. If they're going to do it responsibly. Don't stand out here in the parking lot.
Close your doors.
And,
Go to your...
and throw your bottles and cans down on the ground.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, Chief Odell, for being our guest today on this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Kerry Bubien.
And I am Stefan Roth.
Have a good afternoon.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.